إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, we begin by praising Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send peace and blessings upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon his companions, and upon all those who have treaded in their footsteps of righteousness and piety. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He make us from those who follow in the complete teachings of the Quran, the complete teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that we live our lives as true Muslims and that we die as true Muslims. Ameen. In the few minutes that I have with everyone today, in today's khutbah, I'd like to go over two things. Two things that will, inshallah, develop and shape our mindset and our actions. The first is mindset. Without mindset, you can't have proper action. You can have a complete blueprint. You can have all the actions required in front of you. But if you don't have the mindset, you can't motivate yourself to do what you need to. You can have the entire blueprint of how to become a millionaire in front of you. We have access to that sort of information. Likewise, we have access to the information required in order to become a millionaire in the hereafter. Right? The Quran, that's what the Quran is all about. The Quran gives us a blueprint. The Quran gives us step-by-step actions and requirements. The life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a practical example of what is needed in order to be a true Muslim, in order to be a successful Muslim, in order to be someone who is considered an elite in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have that blueprint in front of us. But if there is no motivation, if there is no driving force behind our actions, if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, then we can have the most elaborate, the most thorough, the most well laid out plan in front of us, yet we won't want to do it. Every morning we'll get up and say, I can push this aside. This is not very important right now. Or we can get sidetracked, or we can begin to procrastinate. Why? Because there is no motivation. The correct mindset has not been developed. So in today's khutbah, what we're going to focus on is developing the right mindset, number one, and number two, the correct actions. And all this is in light of the month of Ramadan as well. So as all of us are aware that we just have a few more days till the end of the month of Ramadan. In a few more days, inshallah, we will be celebrating Eid with our families, our friends, and gone will be the days of fasting and praying Taraweeh, right? All that will be gone in a few more days. And inshallah, in another few more days, we will be approaching Ramadan again. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it that Allah gives us many, many more Ramadans in the future, and that Allah makes each Ramadan better than the other. Ameen. But with the month of Ramadan coming to an end, many of us have mixed feelings. Some of us are feeling very, very happy that, we were able to accomplish so much more than we expected. Before the month of Ramadan began, we were hardly coming to the masjid. Before the month of Ramadan began, we hardly had time to open the Quran and read the Quran. We hardly had time to engage in anything meaningful. But with the month of Ramadan, suddenly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put so much barakah, so much blessings in our time, that now we're able to come to the masjid every single day. We're able to read the Quran every single day. Every single day we are able to do some sort of extra worship and devotion for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some of us at the end of this month are feeling very, very happy. And then there are others who are very remorseful and they feel very guilty. They feel that, I was not able to take advantage of the month of Ramadan. I was not able to make the most of the month of Ramadan. That the month of Ramadan just passed by. It felt like a couple of days. And really, that's what it feels like. We look back at the beginning of the month of Ramadan, and we're like, wow, it passed by so quickly. It just feels like a week. Really, that's what it feels like. Looking back right now, it doesn't feel like we spent 28 days or 27 days or whatever it may be. It feels like just a couple of days Ramadan began. And as Ramadan is now slipping away, we feel very guilty that, we were not able to do what we wanted to. We began the month of Ramadan with so many things on our to-do list. I wanted to finish the entire reading of the Quran. I wanted to read the entire translation and meaning of so-and-so surah. I wanted to make sure that I was there every single day in the masjid. But now that we're looking back, it seems like we are unable to accomplish any of that. In fact, because Ramadan's schedule is sometimes a little hectic, we see that in between we have plateaus. In between we actually have ebbs. That, we, instead of being productive, we just sleep the entire day because we're so tired. So there's a mixed feeling. There's that sense of ambivalence. In light of this, there's a beautiful hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this hadith, a person asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أن رجلا سأل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما الإيمان? What is iman? What is belief? What is faith? What does it mean to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is that about? Is it simply saying I believe in one Allah and that Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger? Is that what iman is just about? Is it just saying that? Is it just a mere statement? Or is it much more than that? Are there sentiments and feelings, emotions tied with that? What are the actions required for faith? So this is what the person is asking. What exactly is iman? What does it mean to be a Muslim? You often hear the question, especially in today's time where, everyone, you often hear the question, what does it mean to be American? Especially for someone who's not white, they're asked, what does it mean to be American for you? How American are you? Right? Do you believe in American values? So this is what the person is asking, similar to that. What does it mean to be a Muslim? What does it mean to have iman? What is iman in itself? So the Prophet ﷺ answers this question in a very, very beautiful way. He says that iman is إذا سرتك حسنتك وساءت سيئتك فأنت مؤمن. That when your good actions make you happy, when your good actions bring you joy and delight, and when your evil actions make you feel guilty, remorseful and sad, فَأَنْتَ مُؤْمِنٌ, then you are a believer. Then you are a person who has faith. What the Prophet ﷺ is saying, that when a person does something good, and because they do something good, because they have worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they have done something which they know will now make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy, will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this makes them happy. That I did something good, I was able to accomplish something. On the other hand, that person is also aware that when they do something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want them to do, or they are unable to fulfill a requirement by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are now feeling guilty, they are left feeling remorseful. Why? Because they were unable to fulfill their responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That person is a believer. Why? Number one, because they know right from wrong. They know what they need to do. They know what is required of them, and they know what is wrong. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they know how to react. And then the same person asked the Prophet, what is sin? how should we feel about sin? What should we deal, how should we deal with sin? What exactly is disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the Prophet ﷺ then says, إِذَا حَاكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ شَيْءٌ فَدَعَهُ. That sin is something, when you do it, it makes you feel very, very uncomfortable. It makes you feel uneasy. You do it, there's lots of different types of sins. And the nature of sin is that it's pleasing. The nature of sin is that it looks very appealing. You want to do sin. But when you do it, you may have that temporary gratification. You may have that temporary pleasure. But right after that, once that pleasure, that temporary gratification has subsided, you begin to think about it. And you begin to feel guilty. You begin to feel uncomfortable. And you question, why did I do that? What did I get out of it? And then you make that promise to yourself that, no, inshallah, I'll never do it again. That is what sin is. That you do something and then you feel uncomfortable afterwards. That, why did I do this? I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want me to do this. I know Allah says not to do this, yet I did it. Why? I have to give this up. That's what the definition of sin is. So there's a few things that we're learning from this hadith. A few very, very important things. Number one is having the mindset. The mindset is that when we do something good, we should be happy about it, because that's what the characteristic of a believer is. If we are constantly beating ourselves up, if we are constantly saying that I am not good enough, if we are constantly saying I am not doing enough, and never letting ourselves enjoy or never letting ourselves feel good about the accomplishments that we've achieved, then we are always going to be in a state of remorse, which eventually will lead to a person becoming depressed and eventually giving up. Then, I'm never good enough, so why even bother? So it's essential to feel good about the actions that we do. So as the month of Ramadan is coming to an end, all the brothers, can you please move up? As the month of Ramadan is coming to an end, there's two things we need to do. We need to look back and look at all the different things we've accomplished. Many of us may have attended the masjid every single day. That is a huge accomplishment. For others, it may have been that we were able to finish a khatam, an entire reading of the Quran. That is an accomplishment. For a person to have fasted all 30 days, that is an accomplishment. When we've prayed every single salah, every single day, that is an accomplishment. When we look back at all these small things that we've accomplished, they should make us feel good. They should make us feel happy. Because it is this happiness, this joy, inshallah, that will move us forward. That will motivate us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even more. And why are we happy with it? Number one, because Allah is happy with it. Right? When we do something good, we know Allah is now pleased with us, and therefore we should be pleased with ourselves. And second is when we do something good, we know that there is reward for us. And that's why we should also feel good. Number one, Allah is happy with us, and number two, there is reward for us. And that is why we feel good when we do something which pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the other hand, we look back at the month of Ramadan and we see that we are unable to do what we really wanted to do. Maybe we missed a few tarawih salahs. Maybe due to whatever illness, sickness, whatever excuse, we were unable to fast all 30 days of the month of Ramadan. Maybe we're not able to attend every single day in the masjid. Whatever the case, we look back at that and we feel remorse, we feel guilt. And that is also good. Why? Because if you don't feel remorseful, if you don't have any guilt, there's nothing pushing you to become better. If a student takes a test and they fail that test, right? They fail the test and they're completely indifferent. Oh, I really don't care, I failed the test. There's nothing that's gonna motivate the person to now want to pass the test, right? Likewise, for us, if there's no feeling of guilt, with the month of Ramadan coming to an end, if we're not feeling guilty, right? If we're not feeling guilty that we were not able to accomplish everything, if we're not feeling guilty that we are not able to be the best we can, then that too is a problem. So in essence, what we're trying to get to is that with the end of the month of Ramadan, there should be a balance on how we feel. The first is we should be happy with what we were able to accomplish. And the second is that we should feel guilty regarding what we were unable to accomplish. It's a mix of both of these feelings, inshallah, that will motivate us, that will push us to be better, to do more during the next Ramadan, and to become a better person, inshallah. But if we are overly happy, if we are just very, very happy about ourselves, then a person becomes complacent. A person now says, I'm doing enough already. That's enough. Right? That's enough. It's already. Right? On the other hand, if we're feeling too guilty, then that's going to become something which makes us feel depressed and say, I'm doing so much yet I don't feel any satisfaction. Why even bother? Let's just give up. So you have to have the two in order to move forward. And with that, there's also a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he says, Al-Iman bayna al-khawf wal-raja. That Iman is a mixture of khawf wal-raja. Khawf is fear of Allah, and the raja is being optimistic of the mercy of Allah. So the entire point of these two hadith, the first hadith is when a person does something good, they are pleased with their actions. And when a person does something bad, then it causes them discomfort and tension. And the second hadith is that Iman is in between hope and fear. What we learn from these two hadith, and in light of the month of Ramadan, is that with the end of the month of Ramadan, we should be taking into account of what we did, what we didn't do, and what we can do next year, Ramadan, to make it even better. And that's the blueprint, that's the plan we have. But it all goes back to the mindset. If there's no remorse, if there's no guilt, if there's no happiness and joy, then there's nothing moving us forward. And in order to move us forward, we have to have those components. We have to have that fear. We have to have that guilt. We have to have that remorse. But more importantly, we have to have that hope, that optimism, and that happiness. That what we did, inshallah, will be rewarded and will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have a balanced faith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our iman balanced. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from these believers, which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has described. That when we do something good, we are happy with what we did because it pleases Allah and there's reward for us. And at the same time, when we are unable to do what Allah requires us of, that we feel guilty, we feel remorse. That we know we could do better. We have a higher standard for ourselves. Our self-esteem is much better than that. That we can do much more than just doing below average or just doing average. That we want to be people who excel in the sight of Allah, in whatever our professions are, whatever our careers are. We want to be people that excel. Not be people who are complacent and satisfied at where we are. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to achieve all this and accomplish all this. Ameen. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن المجيد ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات وذكر الحكيم أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمسلمات وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته. The first segment of our khutbah today was about developing the right mindset. The second part of the khutbah today, in this part of the khutbah, what we'll be going over is how to put that mindset into action. How should we now harness that mindset, that power, that motivation we have, and what should our blueprint be? Right? How should we move forward with that? What is the practical way of making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy, making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with us? The basis of all that is consistency. We've been mentioning this over and over again during the month of Ramadan. That actions which are small, insignificant to us, but they are consistent, those are the actions which are most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We started the month of Ramadan, we may have now accomplished so many different things. We have to ask ourselves that now that Ramadan is ending, what will we continue to do? Right? With the end of Ramadan, is this also going to be the end of everything that we do? With the end of Ramadan, is this going to be the last time we visit the masjid until the next Ramadan? With the end of Ramadan, is this going to be the last time that we sit down and read the Quran until the next Ramadan? We have to ask ourselves, what can we continue? Right? During this month, we were able to come to the masjid every single day. What actions will we continue on after the month of Ramadan? Maybe we cannot come to the masjid for 2 hours like we do it during the month of Ramadan. But what we can do is at least try to come every single day, or every other day, or maybe 2 or 3 times a week to the masjid. Maybe we're not able to read as much as Quran as we did during the month of Ramadan. But after the month of Ramadan, maybe we're able to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes every single day with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever it is, the point is to continue doing what we started. If a person does 20 khatams, right, let's just say an extravagant number, 20 khatams during the month of Ramadan, but outside of the month of Ramadan they do nothing at all. Of course there is reward. Of course there is reward. But when you compare that person to a person who just recites the Quran every single day for 10, 15 minutes, but doesn't really finish 20 khatams, maybe finishes 1 khatam throughout the entire year. That action, that consistency is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a person going all out during the month of Ramadan. There's another hadith which comes to mind, and this is in light of the 6 fasts that is recommended to do during the month of Shawwal. So after the month of Ramadan ends, the month of Shawwal begins. In the month of Shawwal, Rasulullah ﷺ has said that من صام رمضان ثم أتبعه بست من شوال كان كصيام الدهر. That the person who fasts during the month of Ramadan, and then during the month of Shawwal, that person fasts 6 more days, it is as though the person has fasted the entire year. Right? Let's look into that a little bit. We know that every single action we do is multiplied by 10. So every single fast during the month of Ramadan, which is 29 or 30 days, whatever it may be, will give us either 290 or 300 rewards. Right? And then during the month of Shawwal, we fast another 6 days. And that can now either give us 350 or 360 rewards. And in the Islamic calendar, there's around 360 days. So that's how that's what the hadith means. That the person who fasts during the month of Ramadan, and then in the month after the month of Ramadan, which is the month of Shawwal, a person fasts 6 more days, then it is as though the person receives the reward of fasting the entire year. And then we look at the actions of Rasulullah ﷺ even outside of the month of Ramadan. we see that Rasulullah ﷺ fasted on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every month. We see that the Prophet ﷺ fasted on Mondays and Thursdays of every week. What we're seeing in the life of Rasulullah ﷺ is this consistency. That Ramadan was a month wherein Rasulullah ﷺ would increase and intensify his ibadah. But outside of the month of Ramadan, Rasulullah ﷺ would continue to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is how our approach to our deen should be. That during the month of Ramadan, we intensify our ibadah, but outside of the month of Ramadan, we continue to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Now at the end of the month of Ramadan, it shouldn't be the last time we fast. We should try to fast during the 6 days of Shawwal. We should try to fast at least once or twice a day throughout the month, whether it be a Monday, whether it be a Thursday, whether it be 13, 14, or 15, at least once during each month. To keep this consistency, to practice on the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because when you look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his life was balanced. The way he worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was balanced. And more importantly, it was consistent. It wasn't that today I'm going to do so much that tomorrow I'm going to be so tired I can't do anything else. It's doing small things and doing them on and on and on. And that is what we should aim for. That when we have the right mindset, then this is the right approach. Doing small actions that are consistent. Reading the Quran for 10 minutes a day, but every day. Maybe fasting once a month, but every month. Giving some sort of sadaqah weekly, but every week. Small things, but they are consistent. And those small things that are consistent are much more beloved and better in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a person who does one big thing only once. A person who says, this month, this entire week I'm going to fast. And they fast. And then after that week they get so tired, they say, that's it, I'll just wait till the next Ramadan. Yes, there's reward, but it's much better for that person to fast once a month, every month. Right? And so on and so forth. So with that being said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us consistent. I know during the month of Ramadan we were able to accomplish so much, but let's not make that after the month of Ramadan we stop everything. Let's continue to do small yet consistent actions. Let's make this promise to ourselves that after the month of Ramadan is over, we'll continue to recite the Quran, maybe 5-10 minutes a day. That after the month of Ramadan is over, let's make this promise to ourselves that we'll come to the masjid, right? That we'll come to the masjid at least once a week. The more, the better. But at least once a week. Once a week outside of Jummah, right? Once a week outside of Jummah. Let's make this promise to ourselves that every week outside of Ramadan we'll give some sort of sadaqah. That we'll recite the Quran, we'll fast. We'll continue doing what we were doing during the month of Ramadan. Inshallah. And we'll see that those small things that we do that are consistent will inshallah give us many, many rewards. If you take a rock and you put it under a waterfall, right? You take a rock and you put it under a waterfall for one day. Nothing really happens. But if you take that same rock and you put it under a dripping water, and you leave it there for months, you'll see that one drop of water that falls every now and then will eventually begin to crack that rock, will eventually leave its mark on the rock. And that's the idea. That these small, consistent actions are there to change us, are there to leave a mark on us, are there to make us better. Because when you do something over and over again, when you're consistent, that's when change comes. But if you just do something, you do something huge and just once, change really doesn't happen. In order to change, in order to become and develop something permanent within us, it needs to be consistent. And that is why small yet consistent actions are better. Because in the long run, you come out a different person. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand all this, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to do small yet consistent actions which are easy for us, but at the end change us, inshallah. Ameen. Aqimus salat.